Today's episode of Outside the Rack is brought to you by Kinetic Performance, the makers of the Gymaware. In today's world of strength and conditioning, data collections become the utmost of importance, and that's exactly where Gymaware separates itself from the competition. Because when we're sitting there and looking to collect data, what data are you actually collecting? And are the numbers you're looking at fitting into the exercises that you're utilizing? And even more so, are they going to answer the questions that you're looking for? Looking at different ways that you are moving the barbell through peak and mean, both velocity and power, is really what separates Gymaware from the competition. Being able to understand what your ballistic exercises are doing separate to what your strength exercises are doing really allows you to program at a much more specific level for your athletes. So hop on over to kinetic.com.au to see what Evan and his team have in store for you today. The world of strength and conditioning is filled with some fantastic practitioners that are always searching for more. But more what? What are strength and conditioning coaches searching for to better their ability to prepare their athletes? Well, what about cutting-edge information, or a place where you can find different opinions from forward-thinking coaches on what you're doing, how you're doing, and try to get feedback to be better for your athletes? Or what about a place where you'll find like-minded coaches that can provide solid coaching advice and career development for you as you progress through your career as a strength and conditioning professional? Well, this is exactly why we built the Strength Coach Network. You'll have access to exclusive monthly content on top of the sensationally active forum that we have, where you can communicate with coaches all over the world to find those answers that you're looking for to help you be a better practitioner for your athletes. So make sure you hop on over to strengthcoachnetwork.com/CVASPs, that's strengthcoachnetwork.com/CVASPS, and get your 48-hour trial for only $1. I look forward to seeing you in the Strength Coach Network.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to the 26th episode of Outside the Rack, brought to you by Kinetic Performance, the makers of Gymaware. In this show, we're just trying to dive a little deeper into some of the minds of the top practitioners of the world of sport performance to learn a little bit more about who they actually are and how they got to where they are today. Today, we are joined by the Senior Associate Athletics Director for Performance and Student Athlete Welfare at the California University Northridge, Bob Alejo. Bob?
Try to fit that on a business card. Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't come up with anything shorter, but in the end, that's what I do. What's happening, man? It's good to see you, Jay. Good to be back with you. And I love doing this with you because whenever we get together, no matter where it is, phone or otherwise, it's like we're in the backyard just hanging out, you know.
It's almost like we've been to a 200-person round table or barbecue once or twice.
You know what? That reminds me of a place.
Well, that's awesome, man. Now, it's always great to chop it up, always great to see you, and stoked to have you on the show today. But before we get rolling too fast here, who is Bob Alejo?
Who is Bob Alejo? All right, well, I think you have to use the basic, husband, father, brother, uncle, so on and so forth, grandfather now, so on and so forth. But professionally, I'm a veteran strength and conditioning practitioner, but more than anything, involved with giving the best program delivery to athletes so that they can do the best that they can do under whatever circumstances, we have. That is weight room, resources, anything that we can do, just, try to get them to have, an enjoyable experience while they compete.
I dig that, man, because I think a lot of people now talk about that aspect in a very, very serious tone, and as that whole idea of student athlete experience.
Yeah, it's now listen, I don't know if I'd have that same response 15, 20 years ago, which, soon I'll be entering my 40th year. But, it always has been part of that. It almost reminds me of, I think I put something out on Twitter the other day, hell, you probably were on it too, where I say, when did we stop smiling when we take pictures? Everybody's got what's that all about? This is a blast for me walking around, coach. I know it is for you and probably is for those folks. There's got to be some fun involved, man, so that, you can magnetically attract and create, and, it's not always about hollering and yelling, and it's not always about being soft either. But you're right about that. I would absolutely agree with you in that area.
I love it, dude. And that, as someone though, Bob, who's been and seen pretty much all of it, seen it renamed, the T-shirt rebranded and all of that. We've talked a little bit about some of these, and I'm excited to hear which ones you want to share with us today. Especially question 1, and that would be describing a learning situation that brought about an epiphany in your career.
Oh, that's easy. That's real easy. Well, there's actually 2, and the other one happened in 2005. But well, it was seeing Al Vermeil coach and watching what he was doing in 1980, probably 2, 3, somewhere in there in the middle. When I watched him coach a kid we were working with up in Northern California who had not played football since his high school year, went to University of Oregon, was a shot putter, Jeff Stover, who ran about a 4.7 at 260, 270, was a 65-foot plus guy. And they signed him on the spot right after he ran, continued the workout, and ended up winning a couple Super Bowl rings. And in the meantime, Rockland, their training facility, wasn't too far away from where we were. So we drove up there and watched what he did for a couple of days. In the end, when we drove back, it's about an hour drive, I remember just being overtaken by how much energy and camaraderie and closeness and respect that the team had for him at the time. And I remember looking at the guy next to me in the back seat of the car I was in and said, if I can look and feel and act like that and do my job, I want to do that. And from then on, for sure, I just made it my goal and still do. I mean, he's still today, I call Al and he'll pick up the phone and whenever I do, and we'll talk about whatever. And we don't speak enough, but when we do speak, he's there like he has been always for me as a mentor. The second part was in 2005 when I had the track team at UC Santa Barbara. And at UC Santa Barbara, at that point, I'd already been to the Oakland A's and at UCLA and went through the Moneyball thing and all that. And, had been associated with some successful things. So here I am at Santa Barbara, mid-major school. And we were testing track when they came back from winter break. So I thought I'd do a little assessment and say, let's pick 70% on this squat, because you were supposed to go home for the last 4 or 5 weeks and stay around there and work out. Give me your best. Let's go 70% for failure. So I'm thinking 8 to 10, maybe. So we're watching them, and we'd split the room. There was a kid that did a set of squats that I didn't watch, but my assistant did. And so when we stopped, said, okay, let's figure out what we did. So I went over and asked her, how many did you do? 8, 10, I did 3. And I'm like, okay, well, you didn't do much, right? What did you do? I asked this one kid, what did you do? And he says to me, I did 21. And I looked up and I said, 21? And he looks at me and says, 13? And I went, what? Wait a minute. 21. Well, so what I found out there was he was just like, he didn't know what to tell me. He's like, I don't know if I did it right or wrong or whatever. And I just started laughing. I just started laughing, which probably 10 or 15 years, like, damn it, didn't you follow the rules? I told you what to do. Here's what I wanted. It just struck me like, okay, not everybody knows and feels the way we do about training, right? Here's a kid that's coming to Santa Barbara. Like I told them, hey, you're either going to represent me in court or operate on my heart. So I'm going to be really good to all you guys, right? And this kid was just kind of flummoxed by the idea, like, okay. I said, just calm down. Just how many did you do? He said, I can't remember. I kind of, my assistant had said something in between that. But so that was something that was an epiphany, probably something I kind of knew about, but it just one of those things that struck me, and that whole idea hit, like, hey, see things for what they are. Like you're not going to win or lose a championship on that set, on that day, with that exercise, right? Okay, we can take our time and do what we need to do here.
Yeah, and I think that last statement really needs to resonate more with people, and we've talked about that a lot, is that, and it's not to say that, it's not important. It's not to say that, like, the sets and reps and what you're doing are not important. but that one set of rep or that one extra, whatever it might be, the only thing you can do is ruin the season, not make it.
Yeah, and I tell even the athletes or the coaches, like, oh, we're going to miss a day, or I forgot to do whatever. And sometimes guys get upset about it. Strength coaches too, right? And I said, look, man, if we lose the national championship year, you can blame me because we missed this day of lifting. Come on, honestly. Like, you're right. Not that it's not important, but it has to be contextual, which you and I have talked about many times, and several of us all together. Context has been lost in several areas in our profession right now, and it's ridiculous, it's embarrassing, and it's absurd.
Yeah, like totally, because it just muddies so many waters and creates so much fake confusion that leads to these, like, I don't know, these like kind of like slap fights about nothing.
Slap fights. I love it. Only Jay DeMayo can come up with that one.
I mean, it's, it is though, right? Like, it's like,
yeah, it is.
Oh, well, blah, blah, blah with this exercise. It's like, dude, who cares?
Right. Yeah, I would agree with you, man.
Well, listen, Bob, you're above and beyond that. Like, one thing, my favorite thing is that, speaking of context, is when people in nowadays, they like to talk about problems and not find solutions. But the one thing that you did is you talked about your solution and then you went and did it. And in order to do that, to get to those things, you've got to ask hard questions. You've got to be willing to sit down and ask the hard questions of people to make sure that you're building right. So if Bob could ask one question and he knows that he's going to get the answer to that, what would that be and why?
Well, I mean, so if you think about professionally, it'd have to be, when are you perfectly ready to train again? Then you never miss that piece, right? Because we remember, we used to go 5 days a week, and then 4 days a week, and then 3 days a week, and then squat 3 times a week, or squat twice, and then you find out that years and years ago, bodybuilders are only training the bigger guys only began to train body parts once a week. And you thought, like, oh shoot, okay, well that kills the whole idea. Like, now, so recovery, look, you have to rest to progress. So, I mean, you can train all you want. That's not the issue. We found that out in our U.S. Weightlifting teams back in the 80s and 90s, early 90s, when we found that the Russians, and the time it was the Russians that were dominating the world then, but it was, they're training 3-4 times a day. So we tried it. And word was back from Colorado Springs that it took about a week and a half, 2 weeks, and we had nobody left to lift. Like, they just couldn't budge. So it's not the training that gets you where you need to do. It's this whole idea of training and recovery and many other things. But so the recovery, is a piece. But look, I think we're seeing really good science right now and bringing us to good conclusions. So I don't buy that crap like, oh, we're so far ahead in the gym and science only tells you what you need to know. Like, that's crap. What I think it is it brings you closer to conclusion. Yeah, we have an idea. Like, I have an idea what 90% of a 1 RM and a bench, how many reps I should get. I have an idea, but that conclusion isn't really there yet. I mean, we need to get multiple sample sizes of, when you get to that place, what did you do before? What are you doing after? What year you are? How old you are? What gender? All these things are important. And science is helping in that area. So I remember early on in my career, I clung to the science. I just got tired of schools telling us, this is what we do here. And nobody was ever looking at a team that finished 5th or last, which is to say that those strength coaches were terrible. And that's not the case at all. So I'm glad I kind of gravitated to the science side, and I really like what's happening there. So, I mean, I think we're getting more answers than you think, right? And that's where I like to go.
Or at the very least, we're getting better questions.
Yes, which leads to the next paper, right? And I mean, you can't assassinate, I can't shoot the messenger, right? And I also, I saw a couple things weeks ago like, oh, these scientists don't know who they are. That's a bunch of crap either. We're seeing CSCSs, ATCs who are now also PhDs, right? Now they may not be in the weight room every damn day like we are, but they know what they're looking at. So to say that their studies are not contextual is erroneous at best. I mean, I know, and so do you, some really good PhDs who are CSCS, CISSN, RDs. They're doing studies that are very valuable. So, I mean, I think it's ignorant to ignore the research that's out right now. At the same time, not diving totally in on one paper. Go ahead and grab yourself a good amount of information before you come to your conclusion and your hypothesis.
Yeah, well, and isn't that part of the job, right? I mean, Google
Yeah.
Scholar makes it really easy for you to sift through and look at things. Like, it's not like it's hard to be like, oh, well, this study looked at athletes. Well, this
Yeah.
one looked at 12-year-olds, and this one looked at college kids who
Yeah.
had never trained in their life. Like, part of what you're doing is researching, and that means you have to look at what the paper is.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, look, taking a paper, skimming it, and highlighting it, that's not really reading the paper. So, yeah.
No doubt. But listen, Bob, like, you've been leading from the front for your entire career. You've been helping coaches get better. You've been leading by example. You've had this platform that you've wanted for our field to be better. You've built it and you're running it. So eventually, at some point, Bob needs a break.
Yeah.
So what is Bob's escape?
Wow, you know what? This is a funny story because, I've been often, I wouldn't say often, but I have had the term, the moniker, workaholic added on to me. But I swear to you, some of my favorite times is reading some research or talking to you on the phone and just, we talk about things other than strength and conditioning, but when we do, it's a blast, right? And all my friends. And so I really find relaxation in that now, I do. But, I've been fly fishing since I was probably 13, 14, of which I'll be able to get back to now. I probably dove too much into my career back in the mid section there of, whatever year in the middle of that 40-year kind of calendar. I love music. Music's my thing. So whenever I can hit to a good concert, I got some friends in the industry that's kind of cool that I can hit up and chat with and go visit. So, I'm back in LA, so that's good when it comes to being able to get back into my one of the few vices I've maintained over the years, and that's clothes. So we're now in a good place where you can spend some time there. But honestly, I like watching movies. I like sitting down and watching movies. I tell you the virtue of not getting my contract renewed was that we said, okay, where do we start cutting the fat? And we started cutting that like, okay, cable, done. And we got 300 channels and we watched 2. That's out. And I'll tell you, after looking at, Amazon Prime and Netflix and CBS Full Access, really, our family spends a lot of time on some of these things that we like to look at together, from documentaries to movies, whatever. So that's kind of fun. I wouldn't say those are my escapes. That's my life. That's part of my life. That's what I do. And I got 2 grandchildren now. We're closer now to my daughter, and my wife is now closer to her family. But really, it's hard for me. It's hard for me to let go of a great conversation on making people better.
That's rad. It's hard for me to let go of a great conversation on making people better. Now, for the listeners, I don't give suggestions very often, but if you are ever at a symposium or a seminar or a social event with Bob Alejo, and you can sit there and ask him about any of his rock and roll stories,
Oh goodness!
pull
Some of which I could tell.
a chair.
Yeah, I've had some fun. It's almost kind of Walter Mitty-ish, and being in pro sports is pretty cool for lots of reasons, but one of them is you have access to some celebrity, and some celebrities like you. The Moneyball thing was fantastic. Then I spent some time in New York around the Yankees, and that was pretty wild, and a couple of Olympic Games and all that. But I'll tell you, when you mentioned something about I said it's hard to stop on a conversation when somebody's asked for help. When Todd Rogers came to me the first time, who I eventually joined him and his partner Phil Dalhouser for 2 Olympic teams, they graciously put me on as their coach, so I was able to, if I wanted to, get in the parade and wear the jacket, which was pretty cool. But he did that to me, and again, that wasn't an epiphany, but I knew that once he said it, I was like, oh God. He came down, and he was at UC Santa Barbara, All-American setter. It's 2005. He came in and said, look, I know who you are. I know you've worked with beach volleyball players before, because I was with Holly McPeak and Kent Steffes and all this other stuff. And I want to know if you could, if you would train me, right? And I knew he'd had a good career on the beach, and the beach volleyball is a great place to be. But I just got there. There was 2 of us for all those teams. I said, look, I just got here. I know you're an alum. I mean, you can come in anytime you want. I'd be happy to help you, but I don't have the time. He goes, well, no, I'll pay you for that. And I said, no, it's not about paying, because I can't just write a program and hand it to you. Nobody who's worth a damn is going to be able to just go, yeah, here, just go do that. It takes me time to do that, and I can't do it. But I can help if you come in and work out. He's like, okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. Wasn't but a day or 2 later, he came back to me and he said, hey, I know we talked about you working with me. He said, but I really think you can help me get to the Olympics. And I just said, okay, let's do it. I couldn't say no to that. Sure enough, he just didn't go to the Olympics. He won the world championships and a gold medal. So, I mean, yeah, I couldn't do it ever.
It's hard to say no to something like that, man.
Yeah, helping anybody. Which was also the same with a gal. There was a gal there too that hadn't swam in a 2 or 3 years. She had all these injuries, and I knew I could fix them. Like you knew you could fix your thing, and like all of our colleagues, I know I can fix that. We're fixers, right? So this gal hadn't swum. I said, you're going to swim. We're going to get you to swim, right? So wow, that makes me a little emotional, actually. So she's a sprinter. She worked hard, smart girl. Came down to it at the end of the year. She was gonna swim. She says, I'm in a race. I'm in the 50 free. I said, okay, I'll be there, right? So it's Santa Barbara. It's not like it's a huge venue, right? So I went right across her lane, watched her right there. Sure enough, she goes. She swims. And, it's a short race, but she's right in the middle of it, right? And she swam a race. Our goal was, I'm going to help you swim. You're going to swim. And when she got out, came around the other side of the pool, and she gave me a hug, and she said, I didn't finish last. I said, no, you did. You were great. That's the kind of stuff you live for, dog, for sure.
Yeah, man. Well, I'll tell you what, Bob, the number of coaches that you've put back in the pool and have led as a mentor and a leader for what we do is countless, man. And all of us owe you a debt of gratitude for all you've done to help us be better. And as always, man, it's great to see your face. It's great to see you doing awesome. And it's great to chop it up, brother. I'm so happy we got to get this down and got to rap again, buddy. It's always great.
Yeah, it is. It is. And listen, I want to first tell you this for sure. All the stuff I've talked about this position was true. I think it's necessary. Do I think we're the only ones that should have this spot? I think we're the most qualified. But we need somebody better in these positions than what's the overwhelming majority in athletics, right? So that they know what we're doing. They know what the athletic trainers are doing, sports psychology, whatever. They need to do that. But that being said, our athletic director, Mike Izzy, is the one that stirs the spot. He stirs the pot, because without him, it becomes like any number of us who end up saying what we want to have happen. It just becomes a suggestion. Now, when I say it, it comes from the athletic director's office. So that's where it happens. And if I've done anything the way that you said I have, which was, I'm very grateful that you said that, then I want those folks that have help to sit in this chair too. That's what's going to get us where we need to go. Because there's plenty of smart guys that don't need to be done coaching at 40, 50, or even 60. I hope nobody has to wait till they're 62 like me to get this spot. There's plenty of smart dudes out there that need to be in a seat like this. So let's get that thing going.
Yes, sir. Let's do it. But Bob, as always, brother, great to see you. Great to catch up, man. And we'll be in touch real soon.
All right, brother. See ya.
Yeah, man.